United Nations Development Program on the post-2015 development agenda. He is also the Senior Advisor on Child Protection at UNICEF at the headquarters here in New York City. Previously, he worked as a Special Assistant to the Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General on Violence Against Children, and I'm certain he has seen many things he would like to share with us, but most importantly, to hear what he has to say about children, their need for protection, and their right to have it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent boys and girls of all ages and all protocol observed. It's wonderful for us in UNICEF to take part in this very important event, and special thank you to His Excellency Ambassador Tete Antonio for inviting UNICEF to participate in this year's celebration on the Day of the African Child, and also thank you to our friends in UNAMA for excellent collaboration. I realize that I'm probably now the last grown-up that stands in the way of children actually taking the floor, young people taking the floor to share with us their perspectives, and I promise I won't take too much time. I also want to say that Chair, you were very efficient in introducing me, because you actually combined me with my colleague Jost, which is actually a very good, nice combination, and it means that we have achieved even more than we actually have. So that's wonderful, and I think we should do that more often. We would, I think, do these kinds of meetings a service. So it's not a problem at all. Thank you. I actually had an epiphany the other day at UNICEF House. We had a day dedicated to the oceans, because there was a UN Oceans Conference going on, and we had young people, young adolescents and children filling UNICEF House, our auditorium on the ground floor. And they all came to talk about how they can contribute to saving the world's oceans, which are now under threat from overfishing, from pollution, and it's a crisis because the majority of people on this planet, they get a lot of their sustenance, their protein, from the oceans, and of course the oceans provide the majority of the oxygen that we breathe day in and day out. So if we mess up the oceans, we mess it up for all of us. Now I was taken, and that's why I called it an epiphany, because we had children and young people in the panel discussion that were there talking about what they had already done to provide solutions to the various problems facing the world's oceans. And it's quite stunning when you listen to a kid who's 12 years old or 17 years old or 24-year-old talking about what they have developed as solutions to the various problems affecting oceans. And the way they spoke about the problems, their solutions, and what they consider to be necessary for governments to agree on to make sure we can have productive and healthy oceans for the future. That really triggered in me a kind of revolutionary thought, and that was that, what if in our governing bodies at the United Nations, including UNICEF, where we have an executive board, we would have a few seats in that board for young people. Good. And the criteria for selecting these young people to our board should not be the usual thing about, balance, north-south, and different demographics and so on. It should be that they've actually already done something extraordinary to provide solutions to the kinds of issues that an organization such as, in this case, UNICEF, is working on. And it would, of course, then mean that young people from anywhere in the world that have actually done something would have the opportunity to serve on the UNICEF board and discuss matters of policy and strategy with member states and representatives of governments. I think that would change the conversation in our board. It would become much more interesting, much more dynamic, and much more real, and much more substantive. So that was my epiphany the other day. And it gets to the point of why we're here today talking, because it is really about the voice of young people. And nowhere is it more powerfully evident, I think, than in the case of Africa, because as we know, in the African continent already. Actually, in the whole world, as a matter of fact, I think some 20% of the population is young children or young people. In Africa, the percentage is even higher. But while it's a share of the world's population, now the young people, the children and the young people, are 100% of the future. 100% of the future, and we should never forget that. And in Africa, there is, as Ambassador Tete knows even much better than me, and I'm sure this is well known to several colleagues in the room, including ambassadors, there is a very concerted effort by the African Union to put a focus on what is called, it's a bit of a technical term, the demographic dividend. And what is meant by that is that because there is such a large population of children and young people in Africa, there is a unique opportunity in coming decades to transform the continent's economy, to build prosperity, to create societies that are more affluent and more stable, more peaceful, by investing in the opportunities that all these children, young people can unleash in terms of what they can contribute to their societies. If they are healthy, if they have access to good education, if they get a kind of education that will put them in a position to develop the economy in new and innovative ways. And therefore, with Agenda 2030, with these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and with the Agenda 2063 for Africa, the two being very complementary, one with a kind of a 15-year timeline, and the other with a 50. There is an incredible opportunity to get that trajectory of this transformation with the demographic dividend underway. But it will only happen to the extent that there is that political will and drive to really invest in children, and invest well in children and young people. And you don't just do that by talking about them and having and seeing young people as recipients of whatever grown-ups decide to do, but you have to involve them, and you have to bring their voice directly into the discussion of how to bring about that transformation. And that is really the spirit of this event, and that's why it's so exciting to be here for UNICEF. We really do deeply appreciate the opportunity to take part in this event here. And I know I speak for my colleagues from UNICEF who are in this room as well. We're delighted to be here. And I also want to echo the point made by Ambassador Antonio about this possibility that is in front of us of soon to have a real global strong focus on what we're talking about here by organizing a global summit that is for and about children, for and about young people, and making the case for investing seriously in children and young people, and having them take active part in that discussion, both in the run-up as well as at that conference. There hasn't really been a real global summit on and about children since 1991. Think about that. I was a kid back then. No, I wasn't, but anyways. It's a long time, a very long time ago, and it is really time to do this. It would be very important. Also, it's still early days in the trajectory of the SDGs. It could really shape the direction of travel for this entire period up to and through 2030, if we were to do that. And we in UNICEF, we are committed to stay the course, work with all of you. We have some exciting initiatives already underway. I mentioned the collaboration with the African Union around investing in children. We are working on an initiative called The World's Largest Lesson, which is about bringing the Agenda 2030 with all the content, if you wish, all the life skills that you find when you go across the Sustainable Development Goals, bring that into every classroom, so that children will actually learn the skills they need to survive and thrive in the world we live in and with its challenges going forward. And we are underway. The project is moving forward. We need more partners. We need more support. But with your help and with your enthusiasm, we believe that the world's largest lesson can really become the world's largest lesson, and that it does make its way into every single classroom all over the world, so that the next generation will live and breathe their Agenda 2030 and understand what it means for them and their lives. We also have a very exciting initiative, which is a bit unusual. I never thought I would get into the world of comics. I kind of abandoned comics when I was 16, thinking I was too old for them. But I'm back now in the world of comics, and we are working with some of the best designers and creators in the world of comics, including Stan Lee, for instance, who is working with us on stories that are really about everyday superheroes around the world that take on the challenges of the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's about gender equality, or it's about climate change, or it's about food and hunger, or about the oceans, and show how normal young people can actually be superheroes and help deliver a better world for people and a better world for the planet, which is really what the Agenda 2030 is all about. But I'll stop now because it's about time we hear from the kids, right? So, thank you.
And just a few comments from one of the young